Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back again. This is Unit 5, Lesson 47, or Chapter 47 in your book, page 284. It's called Exotic Allure, Puccini and the Italian Verismo Tradition. Now, Puccini is an interesting composer because I wouldn't exactly place him in the Romantic period. A lot of his stuff was done in the 20th century. However, there are a number of operas that he did do in the latter portion of the 19th century, and boy, is he a major opera composer from Italy. Again, just like Verdi, Puccini, every opera company is going to do some Puccini opera somewhere along the way. So every day of every year, there's a Puccini opera being played somewhere or performed somewhere in the world. So a huge composer. Probably the key thing to remember about Puccini is are his melodies, just magnificent sounding melodies, and they're just gorgeous to listen to. Now they mentioned here key points. At the turn of the 20th century, there arose an important movement called post-romanticism, and that is a correct way to kind of place him into this thing. Post meaning after romanticism, in this case post-romanticism, which reflected an expansion and intensification of late romantic trends, especially in Germany, Austria, and Italy. Italian composer Giacomo Puccini wrote some of the best loved operas of all time, including Madame Butterfly, which combines two end of the century trends, a thing called verismo, which means realism, and exoticism, Japanese culture and music in this situation. And that is the kind of thing. If you remember in one of the earlier videos, I did kind of talk about that many of the romantic composers were infatuated with the culture, especially of the Orient. And Puccini was definitely no exception to that rule. He found at this time Japan was finally beginning to be opened up to the rest of the world, and it was considered a major exotic land and stuff. So he ends up writing this truly astounding opera that deals with this. And the key word, as I mentioned earlier, was verismo. Okay, it means realism. His operas did not deal with gods and goddesses or heroes of folklore or anything of that nature, or dragons or flying horses and things like that, like Wagner did. His operas dealt with basically everyday people. Okay, which is kind of interesting if you think about it, because in many instances, those famous soap operas that we have are sort of like that. They're sort of like little mini plays that deal with realistic situations most of the time. Okay, I would say basically for American soap operas, that isn't always the case, but I can guarantee you, I happen to be married to a Japanese lady, and I have watched with her numerous Japanese soap operas, and they are quite real. They deal with very real people, very normal people. Not kings, queens, not politicians. But just everyday thing, like a college student, where and the trials and tribulations that student may go through, or something of that nature. That's what verismo is all about. And Puccini's operas, all of them deal with some kind of realistic situation, with real people that you and I can easily relate to. And then, of course, like I said, the exoticism in this situation in Madame Butterfly, it is the Japanese culture and the music of that culture too. Now, read up on Puccini on page 285. And they do talk about that Verismo opera at the top of it. Let me just kind of catch you on this. Giacomo Puccini was the main voice among a group of opera composers associated with a movement known as Verismo, or realism. The advocates of this trend tried to bring into the theater the naturalness of writers such as Emile Zola and Henrik Ibsen. Instead of choosing historical or mythological themes, they picked subjects from everyday life and treated them in down-to-earth fashion. The most famous of those Verismo operas, believe it or not, of Puccini, is La Boheme, which is Bohemian Life, and Tosca. The Ruggero, Leoncavallo's I Pagliacci, which was known as the Clowns in 1892. Um, that was also a Verismo type of opera, not written by Puccini, but definitely a Verismo type. It says also here, although it was a short-lived movement, Verismo had counterparts in Germany and France, and arguably was influential in the rising multimedia tradition of film. And it produced some of the best loved works in operatic repertoire. Okay, so do read about Madame Butterfly. It doesn't put the American military, especially the Navy, in a good light, but yeah, I guess that's how it was back in those days, I guess. But anyway, it is an amazing opera. So do read about it. Read about Puccini himself. You'll see this thing on page 286 when they talk about the geisha. A geisha is most closely equivalent to a courtesan in Western culture. These women were highly trained in the arts of classical music, poetry, makeup, and ornate silk kimono. Okay. There's again, they talk about his exoticism, and one of the things that they talk about are two types of tonal passages that you'll hear. You'll hear, for example, the pentatonic scale. Okay, pentatonic. If you go to a piano and just play all the black notes on the piano, you have yourself a pentatonic scale, and you can start it anywhere you want to. For example, here, or I can start here, or here. Okay, that's the pentatonic scale, a 5-note scale. Okay, and it was considered to be something that kind of showed you a lot of music that was coming out of the Orient. The other one is this thing called the whole tone scale, and basically that's what it is. It's a scale made up of nothing but whole steps. Okay, and that also created this kind of exotic, different kind of sound. So be prepared to listen and to hear some of those kind of things. Now they're going to play a couple of segments here from Madame Butterfly. Un Bel D is going to be in there, and that's about 4.5 minutes long, and it has one of the most famous melodies ever written for an opera singer to sing. It's on page 288, opening ethereal vocal line. Okay, and then at the end, this thing has a massive build up, sung by a tenor. Or actually sung by the main singer here, and it is I wait for him, as she says here, and it goes like this. All the way up on that high B flat. Okay, it's really dramatic. So you'll understand this. And by the way, again, Madame Butterfly is a tragedy. Okay, it is a terrible tragedy. A lady that falls deeply in love with an American naval officer who ends up just leaving because he was just using her, basically. Really, really sad thing. And of course, for a Japanese woman, especially of that time period, that was just crushing, mind-bogglingly crushing. So, if you get a chance, please do listen to this. You are going to enjoy it. Puccini is one of the great masters, and I think you will find his music well worth getting associated with. I would strongly recommend, if you liked what you heard here, definitely, again, like I said, with any opera, please please read the libretto so that you truly understand what's going on. Then I would also very strongly recommend that if you really want to get into Puccini, jump into his first really great opera, La Boheme, A Bohemian's Life. Again, in fact, that is one of the most heart-wrenching endings you will ever hear in an opera. I mean, it rips your heart out. It's so powerful. So please take a listen to Puccini, and I shall see you all in the next video, which is going to be on chapter 48, Accepting Death, Fauré and the Requiem. Practice and study hard. Take care.